Top 10 riders to look out for at Paris-Roubaix. Paris-Roubaix, the hell of the north. This is the last of the cobbled classics. Here are GCN's 5 favourites and 5 outsiders to look out for. Fabian Cancellara. It doesn't take a genius to figure out who the favourite is for this year's race, which is lucky because Daniel Lloyd wrote this. Winner of the big double Flanders and Roubaix in 2013, Fabian Cancellara of Trek is already halfway to matching that in 2014. Few can match Cancellara's change of speed, bike handling and strength over the cobbles, or even his sprint at the end of a long classic. Fabs is the man to beat yet again this year. Sepp Vanmarcke. Second last year to Cancellara, Sepp Vanmarcke of Belkin appears to have taken a step up in consistency this year. In fact, he has been in the top 5 of every cobbled classic that he's entered. Het Nieuwsblad, Kuurne, E3 Prix, Gent-Wevelgem and the Tour of Flanders. With Lars Boom still suffering the after effects of an injury sustained at Paris-Nice, Vanmarcke will have full team backing. Still only 25 years of age, it's only a matter of time before Sepp wins his first monument. Tom Boonen. Tom Boonen, along with Roger de Vlaeminck, holds the record for the number of Paris-Roubaix victories, so as long as his career continues, he'll be amongst the favourites for this race. 2013 was a difficult season for Boonen, but at the start of this year, he looked to be back on track. However, after some personal difficulties prevented him from competing in Milan-San Remo, he has failed to take a win in his beloved cobbled classics. Roubaix will be his last chance and could make or break his season. Greg Van Avermaet. Greg Van Avermaet of BMC was already thought of as a nearly man of one-day classics, but that reputation will have grown even further this year, having finished second at both Het Nieuwsblad and the Tour of Flanders. Fourth in this race last year, the BMC rider will be hoping to break his duck on Sunday. Alexander Kristoff. For many, Kristoff might be on their outsiders list, but for us he's proven enough this year to be placed amongst the 5 favourites. The winner of this year's Milan-San Remo has backed that performance up with a string of top placings at the cobbled races, including 5th place at last weekend's Tour of Flanders. Kristoff also placed 9th in last year's race, so he's no stranger to being near the front. Norwegians have long been touting Thor Hushovd to be their first winner of the event, but it could just be that 25-year-old Kristoff will get there first. Outsiders. BJÖRN Leukemans. Having spent the last 6 years at the Vacances Soleil team, BJÖRN Leukemans is now team leader at the Belgian 2nd Division outfit Wanty Group Gobert. He's been focusing his season around the one-day classics, and that tactic looks to have paid off, with a prominent showing at the Tour of Flanders where he eventually finished in 9th place. Leukemans has finished in 4th place before in the Roubaix Velodrome, and although that was 7 years ago, it's enough to get him onto our outsiders list. Bradley Wiggins. Many question the sincerity of Bradley Wiggins' claims to be going for Paris-Roubaix at the start of the season, but a solid performance in Flanders, for which he was a last-minute replacement for Stannard, showed that it wasn't just talk. Wiggins' best result at Roubaix came back in 2009, where he was 25th. He may well have to work for Geraint Thomas on Sunday, but like many on our outsiders list, if he is let off the leash early, he might just pull out a surprise podium position. Martin Cialinghi. Most eyes will be on Sepp Vanmarcke when they look at the Belkin team list, and few will remember that his teammate Martin Cialinghi finished on the podium at this race just 3 years ago. Cialinghi is no stranger to long breakaways, and we've already seen that this season at Milan-San Remo. In Paris-Roubaix, contrary to other races, being in the early breakaway can be a distinct advantage when it comes to doing well. Markus Burghardt. Markus Burghardt of BMC is another rider who could feature in the early breakaway and end up going long. While some might mock us for picking a rider who doesn't have much pedigree in this race, or any other one-day classic for that matter, we're going to stick our necks out and risk embarrassment. Burghardt was 12th at last weekend's Tour of Flanders, and like Cialinghi, could take advantage of the fact that most will be watching his team leader, which in this case will be Greg Van Avermaet. Stijn Vandenberg. Given the way that he's ridden at the cobbled classics over the last 2 years, it could be argued that Stijn Vandenberg should be considered amongst the favourites for this race. With a complete lack of sprint though, it's going to take some specific circumstances for the Belgian to win on Sunday, i.e. being on his own. However, the fact that he's in the strongest team, Omega Pharma Quickstep, means that those circumstances are just that little bit more likely to happen. He was right at the front last year before being involved in a crash with a spectator, and nobody can argue that he hasn't got the form. GCN is the place to be on YouTube for top 10 cycling videos. Have you seen this one? If not, click here.